So I'm Polly Meyrick, I'm a portrait artist. I'm interested in the human stories behind big and often overwhelming issues of today. I'm not an expert on the energy system, and the idea of changing it can feel a bit out of reach with a lot of tech and politics. So I wanted to find out what's happening here in Devon and celebrate some of the great people behind the energy transition. I'm going to be meeting some of these people. I'll also be taking reference photos of them and then heading back to my studio to draw their portraits.
So my name's Will. I'm part of the team that runs this wonderful charity, Ride On Cycling for All. The main thing that we do, people donate unwanted bicycles. Then we work with about 30 fantastic volunteers to refurbish them. And then we can sell them fully serviced at affordable prices. And since the charity was formed in 2011, we've put over 6,500 donated bikes back into use in Exeter and Devon. A lot of people are talking about the energy transition at the moment, and I think a lot of that is about the move from fossil fuels to electricity. We're about the move from fossil fuels to pedal power, to getting people physically active and moving. It's going to go as well, brilliant. Yeah, should be nice one. We've had a part on order and the parts to arrive, so it's about to be finished. New parts here, and these are the better second-hand parts. I had a bike, brilliant kids' bikes, got new grips for that on order. For the energy transition, one of the challenges that we face is a lot of the energy sector is run for private profit, and that's where community energy organisations, whether they're charities or community interest companies or whatever they are so important, because it gives members of the local community a chance to step in and help face some of those challenges. And it's about making a difference, using the money for the energy transition rather than paying money to offshore shareholders. And so, for example, things like looking to find where the community buildings have got roof space that you can put solar panels on, and that generates some revenue, and then if there's any profits, you get grants given to local charities as well. So it all goes back into the community. Front derailleurs, so that's what you use to shift the chainring on the front of your bicycle. We've got box loads. We've got absolutely everything and anything in here. You know, you want a bottle cage? We've got a bottle cage. I got involved as a community energy champion because I was really impressed by the excellent work that Exeter Community Energy does. And it's not just in terms of the energy transition, it's also the work they do in terms of tackling poverty and inequality, which is really important as well.
I'm Tara, and I'm one of the programme managers at Exeter Community Energy, and predominantly I look after the energy efficiency programme, so that's both fuel poverty services and retrofit services. We're helping about 500 homes a month currently. On the ground, the team are delivering home visits and doing drop-in clinics at community centres. On the fuel poverty project, you know, we're making an instant difference for people. We're alleviating their crisis moments and helping to achieve lower bills for them in the long term. So that's amazing. Local energy is really important because it keeps the profits locally. I'd really like to see Exeter Community Energy developing some wind projects. I think that would be really great to complement our solar.
If you could look maybe about here. Mm-hmm.
We're making a difference on the renewable energy side for the panels that we own on community buildings, because we're saving those community centres or businesses cost of their energy, because they're buying much cheaper energy from us. The panel shows you how much is actually being generated now. The total energy to date, so it's generated 116 megawatt. Then, so the carbon savings to date is 66 tonnes.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm Rhiannon and I work at Warmer, which is a company that has come together to really try and accelerate the transition of energy and how we use it, and how installers work with homeowners. To decide you're going to be a plumber at 40 was kind of weird. Everyone's very supportive. Before I started proper training, I got told that plumbing was a young man's game. So I was like, right, so you've told me I can't do it because I'm a woman and that I'm old. I loved the training. It was brilliant because I'd been sort of really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And when I was a scientist and doing my PhD, I loved all the practical stuff. So that was really what I enjoyed doing. So going back and using your hands and learning stuff all ticked my boxes. I've never been more useful to everybody. I think having a trade, it changes how you are, it changes how you see things, changes what you think you can do, definitely gives me confidence. Yeah, it's good, I like being on the tools. And during that time, then I started to get obsessed with heat pumps. They're often used in like commercial places and have been for decades. They are not a new technology. It's one of the things that I often talk to people about is that, you know, you can have confidence in this technology because it isn't new, it's been honed. I have got heat pump, I've got solar panels and battery, and it has definitely changed how I think about energy. Okay, so my solar panels are still making 1.6, 1.7 kilowatts, and that's going through my inverter, and then that's my house, and it's using 1.3, 1.4, and because my battery's at 100%, I'm sending the excess back to the grid. That little one's the grid there. So I'm making some money.
I want really specific kinds of shadows.
The other thing is that I've learned is that it's not just trade, like this energy industry and this transition is not just trades. Yeah, we need people to install heat pumps and solar panels, no two ways about it. But what comes sort of behind the scenes on that is people who answer the phone, people who do your paperwork, people who are on the end of a technical, you know, phone call. Like there's just, it's a massive industry.
We had the solar panels placed on our roof here at the Beacon, and that's fantastic to have that going. It's a bit of a model within the community in the sense of, like, you know, solar panels are good, we're trying to be as energy efficient as we can, we're trying to be good for the environment. It's just to set that kind of example, isn't it? When you're in that community, you want to be kind of a bit of an example to others to try and consider those things. It saves us money, you know, that's the thing. It doesn't matter how big or small, it's saving us money, so there's a big plus with it. Our main purpose is our focus, our community, like fun days and drop-ins during the week, and craft group that we've got going. Little kitchen, we do like one-to-one cooking sessions sometimes in there, which is quite handy. Lots of parties as well in there, lots of family gatherings. And in that room, little room, it's like a little family contact session sometimes in there, so we've got more kind of specific needs. Putting on activities so those people can all come together and be in one place as well. I love seeing everyone together. I love seeing everyone from different walks of life. I love seeing everyone with different abilities. I love seeing everyone with different, you know, rich, not so rich, all together and just coming together and just being one. And I think that's just so wonderful to see. We just bring in all different walks of life, all different people, and it really works.
Oh, that's supposed to go.
We've also got that aspect of serving the wider branch of the community with food bank. For the living cost crisis, what we notice is that less people are able to cook things, and they're being more rigid with the amount of energy they're using at home. We've definitely noticed that people are really struggling with the bills. Again, like just for example, a phone, and you know, I know a couple of people have come in, they've had to charge their phone because they can't afford to put that electricity on their account. Everything's just gone up, hasn't it? Food and electric. So we've noticed a big rise of struggle. It's a privilege to be in that space, to be honest, to be able to help people when they need it most. And it's also, I think, really humbling to know that people find us a safe space to come and ask for help when they need it.
My wife, who works in renewable energy, and I were sitting down one day in probably 2011, 2012, and just thinking, these solar farms are starting to come onto the table and go through planning, and wouldn't it be nice if they not only look good, but they actually had a value for wildlife? This site is community owned, and then there's another one we work on in Oxfordshire that's also community owned. The community are quite proud of the site and quite interested, and definitely have been a driving force behind making sure the wildflowers have got onto the site and making sure that they're well managed. Actually getting a machine that can cut under that bottom edge is really hard. For the first time this year, I saw 10 plus species of butterfly, and they were everywhere. A little while ago there was a little bird called a searle bunting calling from the hedgerow, and that's a nationally rare species. You only really find it in South Devon, so it's great that it's on this site.
I'll do some straight on as well.
Because of the soil type and the fact it's not quite so fertile perhaps as other arable fields, the wildflowers and the grasses have taken really well. Farmers in general are very open to solar because farming's become a really tough business, and I think this sort of diversification where you've got a really nice rent and a stable rent for 20 or 30 years, I think is really welcome for a lot of people.
So this is a family farm. I inherited it from my father. We farm about 150 acres, and we farm about 50 acres of vegetables. I'll get up at 10 to 6. Get out, get on my bike, go down to the chickens, let the chickens out. Today we're planting kales and calabrese, cabbages, cauliflowers, and then we're going to plant more leeks. When you grow a really good crop with really good produce that you're harvesting that day and selling direct to people or taking to the farmer's market the next morning, I think that's really satisfying. And actually getting the feedback at farmers markets is really good. I think building up the biodiversity over the years has been really quite a wonderful thing to see, yeah. And just to seeing so many birds around. Like yesterday we were in a field of planting brassicas and there were just literally hundreds of swallows and swifts. And the birds have a really beneficial effect on predating pests. So that's a sprinkler system there. These are all our lettuces. For the salad crops, it's really important to be irrigating all the time. I mean, we've had good rain this year, but it's really important that they have enough moisture. And it's good to feel that we're generating our own electricity from the sun. It helps us all the time, keep our energy costs down. A lady called Jill Wyatt, who was sort of set up Exeter Community Energy several years ago, and she had this project going of putting PV panels on the roofs of places in Exeter, and I automatically said, well, that's a wonderful idea, and was very pleased to go ahead with it. Take my hat off or leave it on?
I'll do some with, I'm just going to take loads and then I'll sort out.
So I think PV panels will be the future. There are even PV panels, vertical PV panels that you can put in a line through a field, as you do agroforestry systems. So look at you. No one from here would know that that energy is coming from the roof or from a power station in the North Sea or something.
The grid is the mechanism that we use to convey or move power from point A to point B. If you think about a solar farm in Scotland, they will produce all the energy, all the power in Scotland, but it might not necessarily be required in Scotland. It has to find its way all the way to England. And so the only means to do that is the grid. You are coming at 400 kV if you're in England and Wales. And then that is stepped down to 132 kV. The grid matters because that's the engine for power. And then because it must be used in a factory, in a home, in a warehouse, it has to be transformed further down. So from 132 to 33 kV, 11 kV, and there could be other voltages in between. It must be usable to you and to me. I happen to be the first community energy development engineer for National Grid electricity distribution. In my role, I meet community energy groups and various energy stakeholders to sort of understand their requirements for community energy. It feels very exciting because for the first time they have a point of contact in the organization. Historically, community energy groups especially were not seen to be part of the energy transition. What excites me the most is the passion that I see with the various community energy groups, all the way from Cornwall to Lincolnshire. The drive they have, the ambitions they have. I'm beginning to see that more and more community energy groups are being formed every day. The changing nature of the electricity network as well. You see, energy transition is something we must be proud of.
Pretty much takes up my whole life at the moment. You know, I do 7 days a week. As a kid, the thought of an electric outboard was probably completely out of the equation, not going to happen. But it's nice to see now that they are really, really popular. Dartmouth, they've got an electric ferry, which is nice. So, you know, it is growing. Electric ferries are coming around.
You must be so hyper aware of like things like what the tide and the weather and everything.
Yeah, it's weird. It just sort of becomes natural. It's like you know which boats are on the river.
What's the tide doing at the moment then?
It's a good question. The tide is going out at the moment. Well, normally you can tell by looking at the boats.
A lot of the passengers don't necessarily realise it's electric. And when I start moving, you know, they sort of look around in surprise, they don't realise the engine's on. So when they can see it in a commercial use, it makes them quite happy to see that it's working and they're doing their bit. If the tide's right, we can drop them to the doors of the pub. It was a group of people in the village that sort of came together with the idea from Young Community Electric. That's where it stemmed from. It's a good step forward, you know, show people that it's possible. Yeah, it's good to do something new, and you know, it's doing good for the planet. So you feel good doing that as well, which is nice.
Electricity's wonderful, isn't it? Whether it's a fridge or a light you can read with.
Didn't have much of a understanding when I was younger. It sort of happens. You turn a light switch on and then the light comes on and you press a button and it normally works. So I think now, after doing sort of GCSE physics, you get a slightly better understanding, but it's still such an alien concept. You just sort of live with it, which is nice.
From fossil fuel generation to now having so much solar farms and so many wind farms dotted all around the country, that's, I think, a massive achievement. So we are talking about reality. We are not just talking about something that we think will happen. This is actually happening.
It feels very buzzy, feels very cutting edge, because things are moving and happening and changing all the time. And it's a massive industry. And I think even if you didn't want to be on the tools, but you were interested in it as an industry, there are just so many different jobs. I just can't see that you're going to be without work.
I suppose the thing we really want to do is to make sure that while we're tackling the climate change emergency, we're also dealing with the biodiversity emergency. That would be the ultimate goal, is to make sure that nearly every solar farm, if not every solar farm, was doing something for biodiversity. And then, you know, there would be a network and stepping stones for wildlife to do a bit better than it is now. You look at the country and you look at all the blobs that are solar farms. If all of those can be doing something for wildlife, then they create quite a network across the country. And if we can influence most of the industry to move in that direction, then I think that will be a really nice outcome.
You just can't beat the face of a kid on their first bike. When you see their parents' faces as well, that's why it's so important that we have the safe, segregated infrastructure, because you can give a family bikes, you can teach them how to cycle, but if they go out on the road and get close passed by a lorry, that family are not going to cycle again. We shouldn't be expecting our kids to be brave. We should be expecting our leaders to be brave.
What we do here is only small, really, and you know, I can't change the world and I can't change how it functions as much as we all would love to. It's not realistic, but within this community and in the centre, I can try and make a small difference, and that's better than making none. It doesn't matter how big or small of a change you're trying to make to help people, it all counts.
I think that we're actually making a difference on all of the projects. I feel like we do have a really great impact. And you know, it's a bit cliche to say we make a difference, but I do think we really make a difference.